All right. I'll call the public hearing on the proposed FY16 school budget to order. We do have a presentation this evening, and for those who are regular attendees of the school committee, you're not really hearing anything new, and I'll probably be going over things that are old hat to you. But for anyone who's new, and this is also sort of a dry run for the town meeting presentation, I'm going to go into some detail, and hopefully, as we go over the parts that you're familiar with, it won't bore you too much. So I'll get started here with our budget presentation. Quick outline is that we're going to talk about the mission and vision of the schools, expenses, the sources of additional revenue, how enrollment has changed over the years, and we think that's a good thing, the academic initiatives that we have, and also how we built the budget, the final submission, and a little bit of looking at how the budget all fits together, and then what we should consider in the future. Mission and vision. The vision always is what we say that we strive to achieve, is what we want to do, and the mission is basically what we have to do. It's the bedrock of what we do for all the students to do it. And I think, just knowing with my own children going through the system, I think we're pretty good at the mission. I just wish we could do a little bit more with the vision. But part of the vision, I heard a quote from some years ago, a vision without resources is a hallucination. So we need to make sure that we have the proper resources in order to achieve the vision. Looking back in this past year, some of the expenses that we've had that have impacted this coming fiscal year and also beyond, we are looking at increased SPED out-of-district placements that will strain the budget. We'll get into more detail on that, but that is a concern that we have. Also, the kindergarten grant reductions, we lost 25% of what was approved at the beginning of the fiscal year from the governor's cuts mid-year. And we don't know whether or not these cuts are going to remain or not. I think right now, looking that they won't remain, but we never know until we get the final budget from the state. We also are looking at unfunded mandates that are requiring additional funding. There's a program referred to as RETEL, which is requiring teachers to take Sheltered English Immersion course. Right now, the state is picking up the tab for these courses, but in the future, we don't know what's going to happen with it. The teachers are still going to be required to have it, but after the initial pilot program is over, we're not sure who's going to be responsible for paying for it, whether it's going to be schools, whether it's going to be out of teachers' pocket, or exactly what. Also, we've identified, it has been identified that in our transitions program, that the coordinator position needs to be upgraded. Now, the transitions program is a program for special needs students after they leave high school. It is for students who are age 18 up until age of 23. And what they have noted is that our person who's in charge of the program should have more different certifications, different levels of certifications. When they recommend something, what we've learned from the state is that in about 3 years, that's going to be a requirement. So it's something that we're probably going to have to achieve in the near future. We're also looking at how our revenue sources outside of the town budget has been changing over the past 2 years. The red and green up there are school choice. The green are people who are sending their children from out of town into Maynard, and the red are people from Maynard who are going to other places. If we look back just 5 years ago, we've had quite a large net outflow of students. But as we go through the few years, as we see, we've basically been getting more and more students coming into our district, and we have fewer and fewer leaving. We also have started some programs with, I believe it's the CASE Collaborative, that have basically for special needs students that we are running the program, and then we are collecting tuitions from those students to help subsidize that program. So that's the numbers in the yellow there as we have coming through. And also, this past year, we have a student exchange program in full bloom. We have 17 students initially for the program. We did have one for half a year last year, so we started back there. And as you can see, looking at what we have for income coming in versus what's going out now, I think we're making straight strides trying to help fund our own way here. What I just really want to touch on, enrollment changes. I know what's up there is an eye chart, and I don't expect people to read the numbers on there. The main thing is just the numbers. Now, this is looking at the number of students from, say, grade 3 last year to grades 4 this year, and what the net change is. If it's red, generally it meant that we lost more than 10 students in that grade. If it's yellow, it's between 4 and 9. Green, it's we lost 4, or maybe we didn't lose any for it. But just to kind of show the fluctuation. The difference is that for the 9th grade, because we do expect some students to go to Assabet for vocational education, we've kind of raised that number a little bit by 10. So if we lose up to 13, it's still going to remain green for that. And you can see we're going back 25 years here, that we've had many years where we've lost a lot of students going across the board for it, so that people were not choosing to keep their kids in the Maynard school system. But in the last 10 years or so, we see that has gotten, there's more green spaces here. And what I also like to highlight in the last 4 years, essentially, basically last year, green across the board. First time that since we've been keeping records like this that has happened. And I think that is something to say for the Maynard school system, that people are remaining. Now granted, we'll have fluctuations of people, actually it's just a number, so we're not even sure if it's people choicing out or it's just people who are moving out for whatever reason for it. So that these are fluctuations in the numbers for it. And for last year, all across here, we basically lost 1 student altogether. And in this year here, I think we gained about 21 students in the system. So I think that's really is important for Maynard. Getting into some of the academic initiatives, we do strive to provide a world-class education in Maynard. We are looking at how things are done in China and in other countries, to looking to see what we can learn from them and maybe have some cooperative programs with them. We're looking to develop technological leadership with basically upgrading our computer infrastructure, and also with the iPad, or basically the handheld initiatives that we've had in the past few years, especially at the high school. We're developing data-driven instruction to achieve state expectations and initiatives, and this is being done on all levels of the school system for it, so that teachers can get fairly quick response from how the students are learning the subject matter, and then what they can do to focus on helping the students who are having trouble with certain subject areas. And we're also then going to maintain and try to increase our foreign exchange program, because I think that is beneficial. That in some ways we can't give our students the world, but we can bring the world to them for the experience of having international friendships. Looking how we built the budget, going back to last December, certain things that we had to look at. Initially was just salary increases from contracts. That was almost $500,000. We looked at increase of out-of-district tuition, which at that time was estimated to be $200,000. It's since gone up to $300,000. And also with that comes transportation of $30,000. Our own regular school buses transportation went up. The contract went up for $7,000. We expect utility costs to go up. We also wanted to invest in the technological infrastructure. The state mandated testing are being required to be online, and we have to make sure that our systems do have enough capability to handle the testing that's going on. And then this is also going to benefit the students and the teachers during the course of the year. This amount, though, has been moved over to the capital budget for a separate warrant article, and not part of the school budget per se. We are looking at computer hardware, $25,000, and then textbooks and supply expense going up $30,000. We also then are looking at to recognize the needs, and we wanted to increase the math paraprofessionals, essentially to help coach the students in areas where they're having difficulties with. We also were looking at another guidance adjustment counselor at Green Meadow, and also the previous mentioned transition program coordinator. So back in February, when we had our joint townwide budget meeting, we were notified that the town administrator's budget that he was recommending for the schools was $16.1 million, which is the budget that we're going to be voting on at town meeting. Our level service budget, as you can see, is a bit higher, and our needed budget submission was even higher than that. But the fact that what we're dealing with is the town administrator's budget, we can then look at what we had to look at recognizing the need. Well, that's not going to happen. We basically have a difference of almost a quarter of or actually, just quite under $250,000 that what we have to do to get from level service down to the recommended budget. And this is just what we considered. And I'm going to go through this very quickly, not to go into much detail with it, because we'll focus on what we actually are cutting. But we looked at administration and teaching staff, at the high school, administration consolidation, at Fowler, reducing music, eliminating teachers at Fowler, Green Meadow, and in the special ed program, and also reducing staff at the extended school year summer program. For support staff, we looked at reducing paraprofessionals and also recess monitors. Secretary staff was reduced 1.5 positions. Custodial staff, a half reduction at Fowler and the high school, and also then looking at program services, essentially how these impact students directly, eliminating non-league sports events, eliminating of all Fowler sports, Maynard Pride Week, and also reduced Nature's Classroom from a program of 5 days down to 2 or 3 days. All right, so what we actually ended up deciding to cut was, at the high school, the administrative consolidation. What we're going to do, because of what played out was because of how contracts were working, we were able to combine the assistant principal position and the athletic director's position, and that should give us a savings of $65,000. We're eliminating one classroom teacher. The numbers work for this from the grade 5 class position as they transition up to the 6th grade team. At Green Meadow, we're eliminating one classroom teacher, which is going to raise the first grade class size from 18.6 students to 22.3 students. So it is an increase of 4 students at the first grade. It's not something that we're really happy with, but we feel that we need to do it for this coming year. We're also going to eliminate one full-time equivalent special education teacher, which will increase clustering of special education students. And we're also going to reduce the summer staff for the extended school year program as well. And that will total just over $250,000, which is enough that we can balance the budget. You can also find the detailed budget information, essentially a line-by-line item on the website there at the address listed up there at www.maynard.k12ma.us, documents to download. And what I want to point out is that that document has over 500 line items on it. But what got changed from last year are just simply these 19 items here. So when I hear people talk about how, whether we're being transparent or not, and we tell them that, okay, these are the changes, it's basically because most of the budget is unchanged. And we've just brought out what is being changed and what I've listed there as well. So, just want to give you a little bit of my own little philosophy here. I think I want you to visualize what I think an ideal budget is. And look at that, it's a solid structure. It's stable. It does everything it's supposed to do. But as you start taking things out of it, or not being able to put in things that you feel that you need to do it, you start getting holes in it. And it begins to look a little bit like the image up there. And that's this concern that I have, that maybe not this year, maybe not next, but if we continue down the path that we're doing, we'll end up, this is something like this. I'm fearful in a way that we need to make sure that we just don't keep cutting and cutting. Now, I know that in the past few years we have been able to build the budget a little bit, but we haven't been able to establish all the programs that we have hoped to do to basically be able to provide the services that we feel that the students need and require to help them do well in the future. So this is a concern that I do have with it. And just to go for future considerations, the state budget is still unknown. We don't know what exactly is going to happen at the State House. We hope that Chapter 70 will increase, and if it does, then that any additional increase to Chapter 70 money should be put back into the Maynard Public Schools budget at the fall town meeting. Other options that we need to look at in the future is that we need to find out some additional revenue sources for the town as a whole. And really, I mean, a town has very limited options on what it can do. I mean, on one hand, it could sell property if it had it, but I don't think that's really the way to do it. I mean, the only way really you can get additional funding in is to raise taxes. And to look at what we've invested in the school, in the town, that we've invested in this building here. We have a new high school, we have a good police station, a beautiful library. We have invested in the town. Citizens are willing to do that if they feel that the money is being used in a correct and useful way. On the operating budget side, though, we haven't had an override since 2005, which was only to level fund, not level service, but to level fund the school system. And that was really as a response to healthcare costs going up tremendously. That's where the cuts were being driven through. It wasn't any inefficiencies in the school. It was the fact that basically the money was being taken to pay for the health, and we had to have an override in order to put money back into the school budget. I think that as we move forward, for the Finance Committee, the Selectmen, the School Committee should all meet early on and figure out what needs to be done. And if there is a case to be made to have an override, then do it early and make it. I know that on the town side, they've talked about having additional money in to have a capital needs budget part, and they had talked about starting that this year with $100,000, but taken from other departments. Fortunately for us, they're not doing that this year, but that would be another thing to consider, that maybe that is part of an override situation to have as well. So just leave it at that, and I'll turn it over if there's any questions on the budget tonight. Okay, yes?
I'm just curious how you changed in the reduction to the summer program.
Yeah.
Extended year program.
I know originally it was 10,000, just wondering.
I think if I recall right, 10,000 was like the whole program, but what we're just going to do is just reduce the staffing or consolidate some of the services, or instead of doing it so many times a week, have it fewer times. So it was something where we're not eliminating it, but we're able to just reduce it.
Yeah, I think our Director of Pupil Services just looked at the needs of students too, and sometimes, because the reality is students who need extended year programs usually have some pretty significant needs, and we have to understand what the resources are needed. So maybe some years you need more occupational therapy or physical therapy, and so when she was looking at it, she felt she could run it more efficiently with that reduction. So, but it's not that it's not going to diminish the program. There will still be a valid program for the needs of the students.
Right, but the original number was 10,000. I was just wondering.
I think it still is, isn't it?
No, it's right up there. The 3,628 initial thing was 10.
Well, so I was going to raise Linda's question. So thank you for raising that to me, because we voted 10,000. So I'm just wondering if we could at some point maybe revisit that, because I was surprised to see 3.6. So I would just like a little bit more information on what the change is, and maybe since we voted for a $10,000 reduction to that, should we need to change it? Maybe it would require a school vote to change it, but this is the first I've seen it, the $3,600 figure.
Yeah, so we'll have to review that.
Yeah, let's look into it.
But we have one more meeting before town meeting.
That sounds
so
good.
we can review it then.
Okay.
Good catch.
Okay. Anything else? Yes. Yeah.
Just a clarification on the enrollment. There was a number for 2014-15, 12th grade, 12.
Let me just go back there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one you saw was an increase.
Sorry.
Does that include the exchange?
No, from this date, yeah, as I said before at other meetings, it is just looking at Maynard students attaining Maynard schools. So yeah, it's not counting any kids coming in through school choice. It would, in a sense, be counting kids who have, if they were in the school like the year before and have left, that would be a decrease in that number for that year from it. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other further questions, the only problem is that we have we have the school committee scheduled to be at 7:30, and we're not quite there yet.
So just a few minutes.
So we just have a few minutes.
Do you
for
want to
that.
adjourn this one?
Yeah, we might as well. Ready to adjourn the or the public hearing?
Do we want to,
Or do we have any questions?
Any comments or questions?
Well, I think you did. Thank you, Bill, first of all, for obviously putting the time and the effort into putting this together. And my big point was that I wanted to see that we show to the town the positive trends that have been going on with the schools over the past decade or so, and how obviously it's important that we have the funds to continue to have the programs that appeal to other people who want to choice in. So to keep those trends going, we need at least a level service budget. And as you can see here, we're still having to make cuts.
Yeah.
So that's really what I want to see. I think you did a good job illustrating that and just really make sure, like you did tonight, talk about how important it is to try and keep that trend going, because it wasn't too long ago, it was going in the opposite direction. It takes a long time to reverse trends like that, years to decades. So I enjoyed how you put that in. I thought that was strong. So I think that will be important going forwards. But thank you again for
Thank you,
putting
Jamal.
that together.
Justin, any?
I'll echo the sentiments. I thought you did a really nice job revising the sort of draft that we looked at last meeting, incorporating the feedback and the suggestions. And I feel like it's a nice, concise, and powerful document. So well done.
All right, thank you. Amy?
Agreed. Nice work.
Okay. All right, well then we'll motion to adjourn until 7:30.
Sure, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, I'm just going to turn off the camera for a little bit.
I'm sitting with them and the treatment at 20. And Dad said, "Don't you have some cream?" They said, "Yeah."
I don't think so.
I've seen him running around the soccer field.
Yeah.
Conrad's still asking for an English-speaking teacher for her birthday.
Really?
That's at the top of the list. Is she going to be in third grade next year?
Second.
Anna.
Yeah, she's with Anna.
Gotcha. And then your son's going to be in kindergarten.
Luke's got his name pulled, yes.
Nice.
Very excited. And he was cute in the car coming home because he's got a dentist appointment tomorrow. So Amanda's pulling them at lunchtime. He's like, I need to go back tomorrow. I've got my Spanish lesson at daycare. So he's all about the Spanish now.
That's right.
Okay, are we ready? All right. All right, I call the school committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda are minutes. So can I have a motion for minutes of April 16th?
Motion to approve the school committee meeting April 16th.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion, corrections, omissions? Then all in favor? All right. Next up is my chairman's report. Just two items. I noticed that we've got an invitation for the second grade art show that is running from May 18th to the 29th, with the opening reception on May 18th from 5:30 to 8:30. But I've just also realized that isn't 18th town meeting?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
It is.
Well, then we have to go there early and then come to town meeting
That's right.
for it.
Well,
No.
the night's already blocked out anyway, so.
All right. The other item was, last night I took part with Chairman Bill Crenshaw and Chairman of the Finance Committee, Peter Campbell, on voting for the Maynard Employee Volunteer Recognition Program. So I will not reveal who it is to keep any, such a surprise in place, but I think it was very nice to work with them, and I think the people that were recognized are well-deserved for that, and that concludes my report. So Bob, Superintendent's report.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, this was a really great picture. I think that's a Minecraft guy, but this looks like me roasting marshmallows over an open fire, so I don't know how he figured out that I do that so often. But it's a really great invitation, and I'm looking forward to that. And Mrs. Arclay is our new art teacher at that level, so she's doing an incredible job, obviously, if we're getting these wonderful invitations. Always want to put a word out for our outstanding teachers. Also, I want to talk about that I attended the cyberbullying presentation last night that District Attorney Marion Ryan's office did for the Fowler Middle School, or intermediate school, sorry about that. And they did a great job. Parents were very appreciative learning about cyberbullying and learning about, the use of the technology, how it can be for good or for bad. So we really learned a lot. Principal Mila and Assistant Principal Fleming did a great job there as well. And I think parents really appreciated it, so I enjoyed that as well. I also want to mention that our technology director, Peter Martin's really excited. Over the April vacation, he was able to increase our internet connection from 50 megabits per second to 150 megabits per second.
Nice.
And when I got back and I started working on the iPass system, I was amazed. It was really 3 times faster. But the good thing is, again, we talked about how we want to maintain the level of technology in the schools so that when our kids go out for a career or college, they're going to be comfortable with the technology that they're going to meet in the real world. It's just amazing how technology infiltrates all our positions, including mine. How much I spend on the computer that I would notice that it's 3 times faster. So it's really good to see our technology department doing that, and we're really excited about the town's commitment to help us do that, because we know already that they have committed a good significant amount of money to help us with that, and I can't thank the town enough. We're really lucky. Also want to point out that bus registrations are coming up for the 2015-16 school year, and the bus registrations are going to be on May 4th. The registration will be at the school district central office, which is now 3R Tiger Drive. It's the wing over here, so when you're looking at the building, the doorway to enter is all the way to the right. You don't go through the main office, but I did want parents to know that that's where the doorway will be to enter for the bus registration, and it'll be on May 4th. The forms are available to download. I think, Colleen, they'll be up on May 1st. Is that correct?
Tomorrow, yeah.
And even in the schools on May 4th, there'll be extra forms there if people need them. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that, because it is a first-come, first-served basis, and we do end up getting waiting lists at different schools. Some schools we don't. So actually, I'm really excited about this next thing. I want to introduce our new facilities director, Aaron McLosco? Okay, good. And I've gotten to know Aaron a little bit. We've been in a few meetings. I know Peter's been in meetings with him. I'm really excited. He has such a strong background in facilities management, and I know he's already really fitting into Maynard, which kind of makes sense because he actually lives here too. So he really does fit in. Right on. But as far as our system, he's already, really fitting in and doing a great job. So I wanted to interest Aaron. I didn't know if you want to get up for a minute and just say hi to the school committee. I don't know if the school committee wanted to talk about some of your concerns or thoughts about the facilities, because I know we've had some, and we've had some discussion about it, but now that we have somebody on board who I'm really confident in, I know we're gonna go do great things with our facilities.
I can send you a list.
We don't want to scare them away. Come on.
All minor things. It's like a punch list.
Well, I just want to add one more thing. He's actually already met with all of our staff. He and I went around, we looked at the buildings. He actually prepped the buildings for the insurance company comes regularly to visit. He made sure that anything that happened in the past was fixed. He worked with our staff, so he's already done an incredible amount of work over April vacation when a lot of us were on vacation. Right. So you're doing a great job, Aaron, already, but there are some concerns about facilities. So I don't know if anybody would like to share anything, or if we'll just wait and invite him back at another time.
I think maybe having him get his feet under him a little bit more before we give him the third degree. But, usually we have the facilities director come and really give us a report, and we can share some of our concerns, and we talk. And since Greg departed so early in the year, and it took a little while, and, it's just how the processes go, we haven't really had that opportunity. So I'm just wondering if maybe it's, one of the first meetings in September. And you'll have a number of new people on the committee, so really bringing them up to speed on everything.
You should probably do it actually earlier. I was thinking
over the
maybe
summer,
and that way then
okay.
anything to be addressed could possibly be addressed prior to the school year beginning.
Right.
If it's minor things, and obviously anything that we view that is a little bit more major, that would just take a while to get moving, at least then it can be planned on, maybe during one of the vacation weeks or something.
Okay.
There. I think that'd probably be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that way then if you really have full access to the buildings, during the summer as well, for it, so.
And so, since I won't be here, I didn't run for re-election. I have two things I feel compelled to mention to you. One is that, you know, with the high school being new, we have a whole list of all of the major systems, so we know that in 10 years, you're going to have to pay attention to X and Y, and in 15 years, right, all of that thing, so we can look long-term. We don't really have a sense for the other two buildings, Fowler and Green Meadow. And so, you know, earlier in my tenure on the school committee, we'd be surprised, like, oh my goodness, the roof is leaking. Well, you shouldn't really be surprised by a leak in the roof. That should be something that 5 years ahead of time you begin having budgeting conversations about. So one thing I would love for somebody in your position to do would be to really take an inventory of all of the systems of Green Meadow and Fowler and really say, so here are the most urgent things. So the next 2 to 3 years, we really need to start talking about these sorts of systems here. You know, 15 years out, we're going to be looking at that. So we have actually a living document that we can work from and we can begin actively budgeting from. And then my second concern is that we, as a town, to preserve a lot of our core services and to really provide some pretty awesome stuff town-wide on a shoestring budget, we kind of cut a few corners. So if you'll notice the carpet here, which is just in front of us, but there are parts of it that are coming up, and if you walk through the building, you'll see walls that really need to be painted, and I just think keeping things a little bit more pristine and a little bit more up-to-date, one, I think it takes better care of the building, but two, I also think it sends a really important message to our students because it's a space that they're in for a long period of time. So I would like to see a little bit more attention paid to that, and I understand that one of the reasons it gets sort of the short end of the stick, so to speak, is because we're really tight on budget. And if that's fine and we want to continue making those decisions, I understand that, but I think that we should make them knowing what the costs are, and I don't think that we're doing that right now. So I would just like somebody to be a little bit more proactive on, here are your major systems, and then here's sort of the stuff just around general upkeep. And we can decide to fund it or not fund it, but I think that we should know what we're not funding and what the likely outcomes of that is. So those are my two pieces for you.
Thanks, Amy, I really appreciate it. Yeah, actually, for both those points, the first one, we are working on a spreadsheet of all the different buildings throughout the town of Maynard and looking at the life cycles of all the different components for the HVAC systems, the roofs.
Oh, good, good.
And different components, and that's something we've actually already started compiling that list. And,
you make me so happy.
So that's something I can present, you know, at a meeting, you know, whenever the committee feels it's appropriate. Then the second item, you know, preventative maintenance is very important. When you have any building, especially, you know, a new high school, you want to have those PMs, you want to create those systems. And, you know, the school has, you know, they do have software, School Dude, which really hasn't been implemented thoroughly yet throughout the three buildings. But that's something. It's on the list of items that we want to try to, you know, incorporate, roll out the training, get the administration involved. Obviously, I'll probably own that program, but you know, that'll list again all those systems, SAM systems, as well as opportunities for anybody within the administration to bring up their concerns on, you know, whether it's a carpet that's coming up or a faucet that's leaking or window that doesn't close, so that we can address those, create a work order, and make sure we follow up in a timely manner. And then we can also follow the trends as well with that to find out, you know, if there's different systems that we're having to maintain, you know, frequently, more frequent than it should be necessary, and, you know, budget to replace those items in a timely manner before there's some type of, you know, catastrophic failure on that system. So,
that sounds awesome.
You know, collect that data, and that's something that also be presented at a forum like this. So.
That's exactly the kind of things that we need to know, and that's the kind of data that's really been absent as we've been making decisions. So if you can fill that gap, that would be a really incredible contribution.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions?
I was in a meeting with Aaron this afternoon, so I already have broken the ice.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
It's nice to meet you.
Phenomenal.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it, that's my superintendent report.
All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce Aaron.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Next up is student representative report. So, Janelle?
So, next Friday is...
They didn't put a mic out for you, so I just figured...
Okay, grab it. Go ahead, grab it.
You have to push it this way.
Thank you. Okay, so next Friday is prom, so that's something to look forward to. Also, the reason why I wasn't here last time is because I was on the band and chorus TC trip, which was really nice. I think everyone had a great time. Both band and chorus received an excellent rating at the competition, so that was great.
Congratulations.
we got to visit many different sites like Arlington National Cemetery and the Smithsonian, so it was really educational as well. But overall, it was a great time. Any questions?
Was it the entire band and chorus that went, everybody?
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
What instrument do you play?
I am in chorus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You play the voice.
Yeah.
So are there MCAS tests coming up for anybody in 10th grade, or is that more the lower or the park?
10th grade, we have math MCAS coming up, I think somewhere around May 18th.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, I think that's it, yeah.
The other thing,
Yep.
you mentioned the prom coming up too, and the other thing that we really appreciate is police, fire, DPW, they all work together to do a nice presentation for the students to make sure everybody stays safe. So I hope you and your friends are safe and enjoy that prom fully.
That's right.
So it's nice to hear, because it'll be fun.
We'll have a good time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Just pop that back in first. All right. Next on the agenda are citizens' comments. Any comments for anything that's not on the agenda items? Okay, then Bob, we'll move on to the school choice.
School choice. So annually, the school committee must approve school choice by law and school choice participation to allow students from other communities to tuition into the district on a space available basis. For fiscal year 16, I'm recommending that the school committee vote to approve tonight school choice up to the principal's decision on class size for each level, grade level, which is what we do annually.
Okay. So can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve school choice for fiscal year 16.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on it? Okay, I mean, this is something we do routinely do, so really, not really a controversial item. So then, all in favor? All right.
Speaking, do we know what kind of space we have for the upcoming year?
So in some cases, we do actually have 1 or 2 in one grade level, maybe 4 or 5 in another grade level. So the principals know exactly what it is, and
Yeah.
I think we're actually going to do a better job of advertising it than we've done in the past.
Oh, okay.
So that the parents who are choosing in understand, there's only 4 slots in this grade level or whatever.
Right, right.
But that's the way the law reads, that that the principal really can decide how many slots per grade level, and of course, we're not going to overload our classes.
Right, right.
But there are classes that are smaller than others. I mean, that's how we got some of the efficiency reductions, because we had some
Right.
classes that were very small at Green Meadow.
Right. Great.
Okay. So we're moving on to FY16 budget?
So the Budget Subcommittee got together this week. We had a posted meeting earlier in the week. And we had been talking at the last meeting about putting together an RFP for food service management. And one of the things we realized was that there's not a lot of time, and we've also understand that there might be a difference of philosophy. Some people might agree with privatizing, some people might not. And I think you may have even talked about it as a full school committee, but the Budget Subcommittee directed the administration to make sure that we put out, at the same time as we consider this, a posting for a food service manager. So if we choose not to go with an RFP system, we will hire somebody. So one way or another, we're going to have a food service program. However, the Budget Subcommittee did feel it's prudent to explore this because we looked at this 2 years ago. And so what we did was we actually looked at similar districts, in fact, neighboring districts, what their RFP looked like and what they were looking at, and we came up with a document. Actually, our attorney came up with a very legal document that I shared with the school committee, and it is online. Colleen put it online, but it wasn't finished until late today, the final revisions by our attorney. And so I kind of like to step the school committee through what this document says and what the possibilities are if we were to privatize. So, because of purchasing laws, when we're involved in something that means a lot of money, you have to go through an RFP, which is a request for proposal process, so that multiple companies can look at it look at what you're expecting from them, and then tell you what they think they can do for you. And so there's a process that I want to describe first of how this is going to work with the RFP. And that is, the first step, the RFP has to be posted in the Beacon Villager, so we're planning on doing that on May 7th. And we talked about that at the last meeting. The next posting must be on the Massachusetts Secretary of State's website for bids and notices under goods and services in the Central Register. And the next regularly, he does that regularly, there's a regular opening, so that wouldn't get posted until May 11th. Then as part of the process, the bid packets have to be available for a little while, so we're going to put them out starting on the 18th. Any vendor who's interested would be able to pick up this actual document. Then we would hold a pre-bid meeting on the 28th where we can set expectations and vendors can ask follow-up questions. So they might read something in here and say, well, what do you really mean about that? And we can say, well, we mean we want the money now, or whatever. I'm just being a little humorous there. I shouldn't be that humorous. And then, but we can clarify things. In a contract, you want to clarify things. Then we would accept the sealed bids until June 22nd, at which point they're open and recorded. It's a process that we used for Pete. We've done this a bunch of times. For busing and all the other things that we contract out, because we actually do privatize a lot of things. A lot of school districts do, and some school districts don't. But it's a process that we do. They would be open. Then on June 23rd, there would be an RFP committee that would review the open bids against the evaluation criteria, which I'm going to show you in here in a little bit. And then they would decide who the lowest responsible bidder is and whether we should accept a contract with that person or not. So it's a pretty long process, and then if they believe that we should do it, they would bring it forward to the school committee for full approval. Cool. So this is really an investigative process, and the school committee ultimately will have a decision probably somewhere in the beginning of July, because you can see this timeline extends out past June 23rd. More than likely, it's going to be our first meeting in July when we'll have to consider this. So right now, this is just exploratory. The budget subcommittee felt that we should explore this and provide you with options. Do you hire a food service manager and keep the system we have, or do we go through a privatized system? So with that said, I actually want to go through some of the things that I highlighted for the school committee just to explain, what's in the RFP. And we looked at another district, like I said, and they had multiple options for a food service company to consider. So in our case, we actually have a food service manager who's retiring. So that's why we're reconsidering this, because through attrition, if we replace him with a management company, it doesn't really affect anybody. So if you turn to page 13, I've highlighted the two options, and I'll read them so people can hear it and so you can see it. And that is the district is requesting two price proposals, one of which reflects a scenario that the food service employees and the food service director would be employees of the food service management company. Option B would be a scenario where the food service employees hired after the inception of a contract with the food service management company would become employees of the food service management company. So a traditional RFP for privatizing is they just come in and they have their own staff totally. That's option A. What we chose to put in was option B, because in the past we've thought that was a nicer way to consider it, and that would be that they would just hire the food service manager, and then as through attrition, when people decide that they don't want to work for the food service company or for the schools anymore, when they hired, they become their employees. But in the meantime, the employees that we have would stay as our employees. So I think that's an important distinction between option A and option B, that in option B, everybody kind of stays where they are, except the fact that somebody's retiring, the food service manager. So then on page 17, another very important component, which I see Bill's always reading ahead, so quick.
You highlighted it, so it's easy to find.
And basically, what we're saying is that if a company were to come in, it would have to be on a break-even basis. We would not accept a food service company to come in and say, oh, you have to pay us for the privilege of running this business. I will tell you, one of the considerations is that in larger districts, and I've worked in a few, and I've worked with a few food service companies, oftentimes as part of the bid process, the food service company will come in because they're not doing this for free. or to be kind. They're doing it to make money. There's some money to be made here. And oftentimes, they'll say to a school district, if you go with option A or option B, one might be break even. One is, we might pay you for the use of your space and for the fact that we're making money. So this has the opportunity to have some profit. Now, being a I've worked in big school districts where there's some profit. Being a smaller district, it's not likely. I have a feeling we're going to aim for break even. And the other thing, Amy, I already see you thinking, the other thing is that we want to make sure we focus on food quality. So it's not about making money, but I just want to put it out there that that is a serious consideration and why people consider privatizing. Because in some cases, it actually generates revenue, kind of the way we've done for school choice, we've done for our foreign exchange program. It helps to offset the cost of a district. So, I think the budget subcommittee felt we had an obligation to at least explore that. But we are not going to go and hire somebody and have to pay them. That would be ludicrous, because we have a good system in place. We really do have a great food service system in place.
What were the sizes of the districts where the food services made money for the district?
I've worked in districts as small as 2,500 students. Most of the ones I worked in were bigger. They were like 6,500 students. We only have 1,500 students.
Right.
So I'd worked in a lot of urban cities, but
Yeah.
I did work in some of the smaller suburban cities, and they still generated a profit.
They did, even for the 1,300.
Yes, for the 2,400.
24. Oh,
This is the
okay,
smallest
so-
district I've ever worked in.
Oh, okay.
We're the 13, 14, we're about 14
Right,
15.
okay.
So anyway, there's some possibilities there, and it wouldn't be, I think, Amy, you can add that, we should at least explore them.
Yeah, I think that was part of the whole impetus behind it. We felt we had a fiduciary responsibility to explore various different ways of costing out the food services, and cost isn't the only thing for us to weigh. I think there are a number of other things that may ultimately wind up being more important, but regardless of where it is we land, I think we have a responsibility to say to the taxpayers and to the parents, we examined every possible avenue and we've decided that this is best. So.
Thank you. You're much more articulate.
I don't know if I would say that.
So the last thing I wanted to say was on page 20, it begins the comparative evaluation criteria that the food service companies would be graded on. And so it talks about their background, about their ability to have nutritionists. That's something that's important to Amy, that we make sure that the food has good nutritional value and they're providing quality food. And there's a whole list of other criteria here, and that's how the RFP works. The committee will look at those criteria and rank the different companies, and whichever company comes out as the best company, that's the one that then gets considered by the full school committee at a full school committee vote. So I think I've covered the process, the fact that we've initiated a process just to at least get an understanding of what it means, but that we'll be bringing it back to the full school committee with full data probably in July, in the first meeting in July. Maybe as early as late June, but I don't think that's possible, so, just because the timelines have come upon us.
Okay.
And we did actually already receive some interest from individual food service managers, so we actually know that there are some people out there who could actually fill that role for us as well.
Okay. So just to recap very briefly, our three options that we'll eventually have to decide are either kind of stay with the status quo but with a new director, go completely with a new service, and the current employees would become employees of that food service company, or they're grandfathered in and remain employees of the Maynard Food Service, but through attrition, as new people are required, they become employees of the food service. So the three options on that.
Great summary.
Okay. Before we turn it open, because I know we have a lot of the food service workers here, are there any further comments or questions from the committee?
No, I just appreciate the follow-through. I know this was a question that I posed 2 years ago when I joined the board, and I'm glad to see that we're doing our due diligence and, looking under every rock and looking behind every tree, because we owe that to the people of Maynard to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that we have the three scenarios that you laid out, because it does give us that flexibility to see which is the best proposal and which one is going to be the best fit for us. And like Amy, I'm definitely concerned with the overall quality, so I wouldn't want to just take the cheapest company based on they have the lowest cost because they have the lowest quality food. So I would really want to, when we get these proposals back, take a deeper look at some of these companies to see where they're getting their food from, specific ingredients, things like that.
Would you like to be on the committee?
Sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, it
Pete?
sounded like you basically just.
Yeah.
Oh, well, isn't he also on the wellness committee?
Yeah,
Right?
so it's
that
perfect.
Yeah,
fits.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely
That'd
like
be
to take
great.
a closer look at that.
Awesome.
Very good.
I do know that we have a lot of food service workers here. I'll try and open to any comments or questions you have.
Basically, we're all here just to, like you said, see if we're going to be coming back next year.
I think we, even with under any of the proposals, you will be coming back next year, because what we would insist on is either that you become employees or an option of that you remain Maynard Food Service employees, but the company would be your supervisor.
Okay, so we won't be town employees, is that what you're saying?
Well, I think you would say the current, I mean, one option would be you become employees of that company.
Okay.
The other option, which is option B, is you would remain Maynard Food Service employees, which are, as you put it, town employees,
Okay.
but your supervisor, essentially as Bob is to you now, they would probably appoint someone to be in that similar position who would be your supervisor, but that person would not be a Maynard Food Service employee, they would be an employee of the food management company. So is that clear? Clear as mud?
Or they would just hire.
Or they would.
Or
yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Right, right.
And that's
And
an option.
then basically it's a status quo.
Because it's very small, we have 14
Yeah.
people we're talking about, plus Bob.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, we can't compel the company to hire our food service workers, though,
No, but I
can
think
we?
I think.
I mean, they're often they often offer that to individuals, so it's not unlikely, but I just don't want to make any guarantees that we can't back up.
Yeah.
That's all. So I think, don't the companies often offer, but there might be an occasion, and I'm not suggesting anybody's not a good worker. I don't know why they would decide, like, we'll offer them to these 8 people, but not to these other 2.
Yeah, I remember, because it's been about 2 years since you and I tried looking at this 2 years ago.
We did, yeah.
As a committee with another member. And I remember when they came in, they did say, we would love to have your current employees and we would rehire them as our employees.
Right.
But because they know the kids, but, you know, it would be a process. They would have to go through a hiring process. So like you said, heaven forbid, you know, the
It's just
hiring
not
process didn't go.
guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
I mean, I think that's just the thing to
Yeah.
be very clear about. You would have the option to apply for a job, and it sounds like most people would say, yes, we would want to keep you,
remember the
but it's...
companies were pretty
but
positive, yeah.
Pretty positive, I know, but for
But you
the
never
one,
know.
but for the one person for whom that's not the case, you
You wanna
don't
be
want to
fair.
have false expectations, that's all, so...
Yeah, because we all want to know if we're going to be coming.
Oh,
back
absolutely.
At our, you know, the hours that we work. Some people do need it for insurance purposes.
Oh, absolutely,
But quite a few of us don't even take insurance from the town.
Right.
right,
We
right.
don't need it, so, yeah, there's a few that do need the insurance. so.
Yeah. No, I think that really makes sense, and I can understand why you would have some questions about that and be concerned about that. So, I mean, we'll post, well, clearly, we'll post it when we have the conversations, and we encourage you to come. Yeah.
Yeah, the budget subcommittee, Colleen's working on it. They had asked her specifically how to write it, so Colleen was planning on posting it, I think, tomorrow.
That's ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, but we actually had some people voluntarily already send them in, because Bob's been doing some networking
Yes.
with his organization, so we've already had a couple of applications, so.
Okay. If there's no further comments about the food service, then Bob, next on the, still budget, but hiring practices?
No, we never really covered that
Okay.
in the budget subcommittee, and we didn't cover
Okay.
the rest.
Follow-up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to approve the RFP, or is it this?
Well, I think one of the things that we talked about at the budget subcommittee is this is just exploratory information.
Okay.
The final approval comes when the school committee decides, do we want to go this direction or do we want to go
Oh,
that
okay,
direction?
so we don't have to approve an RFP that goes out then?
I mean, you could,
Oh.
if you'd like to, but I don't know if you
If
have
it's
to.
not- oh,
It's up to
if
the
it's
will
not-
of this whole,
I don't want to have a vote if it's unnecessary, I'm just
yeah,
asking a
what do you
question.
think, Bill?
I
as chair?
think, well, first, because it wasn't really posted clearly, I don't think we should. And the other thing, I think you are, I mean, really, it's just a request for information.
Right.
From the companies and to see what the options are. So I think that's well within your preview as superintendent to do.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay.
all right. Next up is policies, second reading. We're just doing policy 18, which is bullying, bullying prevention and intervention. It was sort of a rewrite. Colleen had based it off a model policy from, where did we get, was that from the Association of School Committees or Department of Ed?
No, I got it from MASC.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it was just tailored to basically anytime when it said the district, whatever, we put in Maynard school system with the basis on that. So are there any questions about the policy that we want to bring up, or are we ready to vote on it?
No, it all makes sense.
If we're ready to vote on it, then can I have a motion?
Sure, I'll put out a motion to approve the anti-bullying policy as written.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. And just to say, it's number 18, bullying prevention and intervention.
Okay.
For it. Any comments from audience about it? All right, then, all in favor? All right. Getting good. Next then is citizen comments. Are there any further comments? Okay. Number 10 is members' comments and questions. One thing I just neglected to do in my chairman's report was just to note that Dawn was obviously absent tonight. She was just feeling under the weather. I feel kind of sad that she missed because this was her last meeting because of her position was appointed. With the town election, the person who gets elected to fill that spot immediately assumes a spot on the committee. So that's actually the last meeting that we would have had with her and Amy and I. So we didn't have a chance to kind of say farewell for a few weeks or anything, but be looking forward, because she is running unopposed, I believe, for when she's back on the committee after the 1st of July. So that's all I had. Any other comments, questions?
Amy, anything for you?
Nope.
I already shared this information with Bob and also with Chuck, but for those of you in the audience who are not aware, I've had the opportunity to host a young lady from Norway this year as an international student, and over April vacation week, her father and brother and sister flew in from Norway. And on Friday, we had the opportunity to take a tour of Maynard High School, and she had the opportunity to sort of show off and share her experience with her family. And one of the lasting memories I'll take with me is her father standing in the middle of the gym and just sort of spinning in a slow circle and saying, "I've never seen a school that looks as beautiful as this." So I thought that was just a really special moment. And Bob, I know I already sent thanks along to Chuck and Kyle for opening up the building for us on a vacation day.
Yeah, our principal and lead custodian was outstanding.
Yeah.
Kyle
Brainerd, he opened up the building for us, and it was a really fantastic opportunity, and we were really just proud to share. And I think we have a really outstanding program. And last thing I'll say, her little brother's 14, and he's already talking about 3 years from now when he can apply to come over.
Was he scoping out the bedroom, taking measurements there?
My children didn't give him the piece so that he could do that. Our families got along really, really well, so it was a pretty fantastic experience. And her mom is coming over for graduation in a few weeks, so
that's great.
We're getting sort of the whole experience, which is awesome.
That's nice.
So we have a good thing here. I guess that's the summary of that story. So
I'm good.
Cool.
All right. Well, since we've run out of items for the agenda, there's only one thing left to do, and that is...
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Thank you.